Welcome to Fear and Greed, the Sunday edition. It's the 12th of December 2021, almost Christmas, and I'm Sean Aylmer. This is our Sunday show where we have a bit of a change of pace. It's still about business, sort of. I mean, really, the link can get a bit tenuous, but we enjoy it. As always, I'm joined by the Fear and Greed team, Adam Lang Adansky from the south coast of New South Wales. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean.
And Michael Thompson. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean.
Let's kick things off with a bit of audience feedback. I would like to jump in first, if that's okay with you two.
Of course.
Last week we discussed, I thought were quite dismissive of the way I said the word taco. I say taco. And I found myself kind of on Sunday evening talking to a friend at one of the kids' sporting events. And he just turned around and he said, Sean, you know that a taco is something that goes in a car. It's a tachometer. A taco is something you eat. So I'm
in the
here.
theme of Bathurst and the motor racing, I think that's a great point.
I concede defeat on that. I shall forever call it taco.
Well, yeah, the thing is, are you going to change your ways? I mean, you've been corrected for many, many years, and you've kind of insisted, somewhat stubbornly. Oh well, this will certainly be edited out. You have insisted somewhat stubbornly to keep calling it taco. So do we have your commitment that you're going to change it?
I'm now committed to say taco from now on, but I hope you didn't just edit out that little piece then, Michael, which you may have. Michael was struggling to say the word stubbornly, something I found out this week. There's a word that Michael really struggles to say. Do you remember this, Adam?
I do, Sean.
Yes. So, Michael, Zali Steggall.
Yes, federal MP. Mm-hmm.
In the seat of?
She would be the federal MP for the seat of Warringah.
Michael can't say the word Warringah.
So this show is really turning into an improvement session, isn't it, where we offer each other constructive feedback on how to be better humans.
Can I ask you, Michael, to say that word again?
Warringah. There we go. Warringah. You know what? I have never got it right this many times in a row. I think it's actually you putting me on the spot. So thank you, Sean, for improving me.
It's all about self-improvement. Of course, this week Gladys Berejiklian was put forward to run for the seat of Warringah against Zali Steggall, the independent. And by the end of the week, Ms. Berejiklian came out and said she wasn't interested. Fair enough, given what she's been through and still to get through with the ICAC hearings. But it was just Michael reading that story. It took 3 or 4 attempts to get the word Warringah out.
You know what this really does, Sean? I mean, everyone was happy just to kind of have a bit of a laugh about your taco thing. But this has really just opened up now. This is open warfare now. I will be combing through every past episode of Fear and Greed now for the next 6 weeks to pick out things that weren't quite right. And you know what? I reckon there's a few of them.
Warringah. That's a safe word.
Warringah.
I don't think you'll have to actually spend 6 weeks. You probably have to spend about 2 hours to find plenty of them. Now, another word, which is actually one of my all-time favourite words, and Adam used it just before we came on. Adam, at the moment, is holidaying with his family in the south coast of New South Wales, which has had some of the biggest rainfall it's ever had whilst Adam has been there. And we said, how's the weather, Adam? And do you remember how he described it?
Inclement.
Yes. Inclement is one of these incredible words that actually only refers to the weather. There's not many words in the English language like that, but you can't have an inclement view. You have to. It has to refer to the weather.
Sometimes, Sean, your mood is inclement.
Do you think? Stormy.
Sometimes.
Do you think inclement, though, is one of those cases where, and this is just Adam purely in the spirit of self-improvement.
Thank you.
That it could be one of those cases where you use a long word when a short word would do. So how's the weather? It's a bit wet would have sufficed.
Yeah, but it doesn't quite cover it as I wish to. But I'm probably guilty of using a longer word when a short word would do.
Righto. Michael, this all started because I asked whether you had any audience feedback. Did you have any audience feedback apart from my piece of feedback?
There was a listener, Costa, wrote to us on Twitter. He said, "How come there are no more morning newsletters? They were good." And so we wrote back to Costa and let him know that we're just taking a break from the newsletter over Christmas and that it will be back in the new year. But if there had been a newsletter this week, the story that I was going to include, and it would have been very, very hard to make this fit a business theme, but did you see the two girls who got stuck in a shopping trolley in Adelaide while they were trying to film a TikTok video, and the fire brigade had to come and cut them out of the shopping trolley?
Really?
Release them.
They wedged themselves in there. So my challenge was going to be, how do we draw a link between two girls stuck in a shopping trolley and business? And so it was going to lead to a very lengthy search for momentous occasions on this day involving shopping trolleys or retail or anything like that. As you say, Sean, the link can be quite tenuous at times.
Don't need a link.
But it is a video that's worth checking out. Just Google "girls stuck in shopping trolley."
Right.
Did they call for their own assistance?
They had somebody else there filming them because they were trying to film a TikTok video. Well, I mean, I suppose it's good that they weren't inside on Instagram or playing the Xbox. Do people play Xboxes anymore? God, I sound like you two. Jeez.
Let's leave that. No, I want to get on to, I know we discussed it a little yesterday, Michael, in the Saturday show, but certainly one of the great stories of the week. How the hell do you get fired?
Yeah, this was a ripper of a story, and just a quick summary of where this came from this week. It was a story out of Darwin and a recruiter at a labour hire firm who was stood down with pay and was fired for a number of things. There had been complaints against her by a number of other staff members for things like burping in a colleague's face, intimidating and being really quite unpleasant by the sounds of it to junior staff members. And probably the one that really kind of grabbed the headlines for this story was when, on a Microsoft Teams meeting, this staff member called the general manager of the company a wanker. She did it under her breath, but it's still on a Microsoft Teams meeting, and it was heard by other people. And so, yeah, she was stood down and then let go. The Fair Work Commission deemed that it was an unfair dismissal because the right procedure wasn't followed, that essentially she wasn't given notice that her position was being terminated, because those individual events, calling the boss names, bullying or intimidating other staff members, burping, didn't reach that really kind of high threshold for essentially summary dismissal. And because they didn't tick all of those boxes, she was actually then kind of awarded the $6,000 that she would have been paid had she been given notice. But it does lead to the question of...
Well, it leads to so many questions, Michael. Many questions.
Actually, I don't even know where to start with these questions because...
I'm going to jump in here, right? Mm-hmm. Michael, keeping in mind that you once worked for Adam, have you ever had a boss that's a wanker?
He was with Adam.
I think it was 4. I've seen the org chart.
And there was an org chart, and
the Adamski line was higher than the Mickey T line in that org chart. So my question to you, Michael, have you ever worked for a boss that's a wanker?
No, I haven't.
Say something quick.
Is this an occasion where the pause says it all?
No, I was trying to be delicate around it. And then I thought, you know what? I don't even need to be delicate around it. I worked with Adam and effectively, as you say, Sean, for Adam for some time. And I can honestly say that he was a very good CEO to work for.
What was he like in the office?
Well, I'm actually glad you asked, Sean.
Oh, no, I'm interested because I have a perception. I have never worked directly with Adam, though I have been in a company where he was a senior manager and I was a middle manager, and so we kind of came across each other a bit. But what was he like to work for?
Well,
can I just say I'm here?
No, Adam.
And that I'm finding this excruciating.
Go back to your holiday on the South Coast, right?
You choose to take a holiday, you take what comes for you.
This is like live 360 feedback.
That's right. So basically, this is probably going to surprise you because on Fear and Greed, we really know Adam Lang as a lover of spreadsheets and someone who really appreciates the kind of formal side of life.
They are a beautiful thing.
Adam, as a CEO to work for, also appreciated spreadsheets and also appreciated the formal side of life. You never saw him. We had side-by-side offices. You never saw him step outside of his office door without putting his suit jacket on again.
Really?
Yeah, no. Not even if it was just ducking across to the bathroom.
This is really interesting. He put his jacket on to go to the loo.
Okay, maybe that's a slight exaggeration. I'm sorry, Adam, but
how did you know, Michael?
Well, this is quite interesting because I have never known Adam as super formal. Like, I mean, I've discussed this on the show before, how kind of Adam is kind of my sort of person. I find him very funny and he's just great company. You want to be around him, all that stuff. But I've never thought of you, Adam, as particularly formal. Like, maybe it's because we weren't so much in a sort of a working relationship. I used to, you'd go to these corporate functions and I'd seek out Adam because I know I'm going to sit there, have a glass of wine with him and basically laugh at people. Whereas he wasn't like that in the workplace. Is that right?
I thought we were laughing together, Sean, rather than at people.
We weren't. Oh, no, we were both. Together we were laughing at people.
Adam, tell me, do you regret interrupting your holiday now to join the Sunday show?
I'm questioning my decisions. My life choices are under review at the moment.
You've had a few bosses. Have you ever had a boss that you just didn't like? We won't go down you don't have to call him the W word, but he or she that you just didn't appreciate. Yeah.
I've had both men and women bosses, of course, and most of them I can say were good and I learnt things from. But you always learn, I think, things that don't mix with you very well. Like you take your pick of things and on balance, some people were just really hard to work for. But most of the time it's been terrific.
Michael, have you had good and bad bosses?
No, look, generally I think I've been quite fortunate to have had good bosses. And I know that actually sounds a bit boring really, but
bit the same.
There's really no one that I didn't learn a lot from. And everybody has their personality kind of quirks and things, and it would be a pretty boring workplace if people didn't. But no one that I have worked for, Adam included, kind of I would describe as being a difficult or an unpleasant boss. In fact, the workplace culture that Adam created was extraordinary, considering we were working in a very a pretty kind of challenging environment because it's the 24/7 media. That the work that Adam did to kind of shift that and to turn that around was was really quite impressive.
Okay, so since when has the Sunday edition become Be Nice to a Adamski?
Well, can I just add something into that?
Oh, Adam, you're here. Well, we forgot. Go on.
Can I've just thought of something where it has been a failing in people that I've worked with before. And that's, look, you might not believe this, but some people don't appreciate spreadsheets.
What?
I know.
No.
It's crazy.
Did you fire them?
Let's just say we just didn't have much to talk about. An on-the-spot firing, that would have been found inappropriate by the Fair Work Commission, I'm sure.
What was the reason? Did they call you a wanker? No, didn't love spreadsheets. I've never worked for a really temperamental boss. In fact, I've been very fortunate in my career. I have, though, worked for an inept boss.
Okay.
And that's actually really hard, where you just lose respect for their ability. This over many years.
Yeah. Sean, did you find that it was, I guess, demotivating, but then also made you stop doing really smart things when that boss wanted you to do them because you just queried whether that person was making the right call or not?
Yes. I mean, certainly demotivating.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a sort of person that likes to please. So if my boss says, jump, I tended to say how high. So I would never have, I tried to stay away from the passive-aggressive approach of just not saying yep, and not doing it. But it's certainly demotivating when you work for someone. You work for lots of people that you don't get on with over the years, but mostly if you look hard enough, you can find some attributes that you can learn from. And I've got to say, generally all my bosses have taught me stuff, which I've really appreciated. But there's been one or two who are just hopeless.
You know what? This has become a very serious,
somber
Sunday show.
Okay, we'll be back with more in a moment. I want to talk about one of the interviews I did this week, and it was with Damon Kidney, the biographer of James Packer. Now, you should go out and read that book. It's a cracking book, and James Packer contributed to it. What I found really interesting, Michael, was just how human James Packer was. I'm not quite sure what I expected him to be. I have dealt with him at times, and he's very, very gruff. But Damon got to know him pretty well. He went to all parts of the world interviewing him. And he just, he sort of comes across as almost quite sad. He obviously has mental health challenges, and let's hope he gets on top of those. Damon said he doesn't want to come back and live in Sydney because there's a real problem with the city of Sydney and how its inhabitants and its media treats him. What I love, though, was these stories about how close he was to his kids. There's no reason why he wouldn't be. But it was just really fascinating. And in fact, one of the children, Damon said that one of the kids really lights up when James Packer, his dad, walks in the room. I suppose nothing surprising there, but it must be very difficult to be the child of someone famous.
Yeah, a story like that's really quite humanising, isn't it? That is the reaction that really any child would normally have when their dad walks into the room. And so you just go, okay, he might be a billionaire, he might be one of the most instantly recognisable people in the country, but he is still just, in the end, a person and a dad. And so, yeah, and I think that's an interesting point as well about not being able to live in Sydney and really not being able to live in Australia just because of the way that he is treated. So you can see why he has made a home for himself elsewhere in the world where he is, albeit a hyper wealthy person, but he is just another person there. Whereas here, he is James Packer of the Packer family. And you couldn't ever have anything like a normal life. So I can't imagine what it would be like to be that wealthy. But it does not surprise me that you would bring that up, because there is a young couple that you have actually mentioned a number of times, and they were in the news again this week.
Yes.
And it seems that you have a bit of a not an obsession with people that are that wealthy, but Melanie Perkins and Cliff Obrecht, who are the founders of Canva. And I think the Australian Financial Review this week named them as Business People of the Year. And you've got a bit of a gripe about this couple.
Oh, they're so good. They're smart. They seem really sort of centered. They are very good looking, both of them. They've got a lot of money. They're giving it all away to the right charities and things like that. I mean, no one can be that good. That's what my gripe is, actually. That one of the 7 sins, I'm not sure which one it is. I'm sure it's one of those ones that I shouldn't have. I'm just totally envious of them.
Yeah, it's envy. Yeah, it's just
envy,
it is.
That's one of them, is it?
Yes. Yeah, that is straight up one of them. And the thing is, you really want to be happy for them because they are doing such a good job.
Absolutely.
But it's just that little bit inside they go, oh, why can't I have $16.5 billion?
Yeah.
I would do a fantastic job of giving away $16.5 billion.
Actually, many years ago, I knew the Atlassian guys, Scott Farquhar and Mike Cannon-Brooks.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I haven't seen them for many years, but this was in about 2006, 7 and 8. I had a little bit to do with them. Really nice, easygoing blokes. I wonder what they're like now, though. They are so rich and they own houses in the eastern suburbs of Sydney and, incredible wealth. It must change you.
It absolutely would. And it might not necessarily be an instant thing, but over a period, you kind of what you expect would start to change, what you expect from your interactions with other people, what you expect from your own lifestyle. And yeah, it would start to change you. And that's why it'll be really interesting to see the two founders of Canva, how they're going in, say, 20 years, because they just seem so well grounded at the very beginning of it that you think if there's anyone that stands a chance of remaining grounded through what is going to be a pretty spectacular career, it's going to be those guys. As much as it probably pains you to hear that these guys are going to be perfect for their whole lives.
I suppose the reality is, though, that have you been watching the Succession? It's on.
No.
Oh, spectacular.
My general rule is that about a year or so after a TV show is popular, then I'll get onto it after you tell me about it about half a dozen times.
Well, I mean, no one is that happy all the time, and Succession just shows the sort of the underbelly of wealth or something or other. I hope that Cliff Obrecht and Melanie Perkins are happy for a long, long time, but I mean, it must actually be a very difficult thing to manage. Now, Michael, is Adamski still with us, or is he stuck in the car and he's gone out of range?
Yes.
Ah, Adamski, you're back. You've been very quiet on our chat about James Packer.
I do apologise. But I was just thinking as you were talking, the Tech Council, remember we had on Kate Pounder for an interview with you, Sean, a while ago, and that grouping of the Tech Council, what an amazing group of entrepreneurs is in that group. And that includes the Atlassian guys and Canva.
How much wealth is in that tech?
Yeah. I think that grouping, and this, what Jim Collins would call the flywheel effect, what that can have around on the business community around it as they sort of create founders and they generate wealth and they start to try to create more businesses and enterprises in Australia. Just how powerful this might be in terms of an engine room for growth for us. I think what a great grouping that could be.
When you say us, do you mean Fear and Greed or you mean the Australian economy?
Well, maybe we'll get caught up into that. That would be nice. But the Australian economy in general, yeah.
Just dragged along by others' success. Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Well, I think we should let Adamski get back to his holiday. You've been enjoying it, Adam?
Oh, very much so, Sean. And just one of the reflections I have from the week is around
here we go.
How the election.
Here we go. Everyone goes on holidays. And suddenly they become experts. Sorry,
well,
Adam,
you go for a run, you ponder things, and
no one goes for a run on their holiday. You are not holidaying correctly if you are going for a run.
Go on, Adamski. You've been reflecting.
Just seeing that, with the forthcoming retirement of some politicians and obviously the spectre of a federal election, which has to be held by May next year, just looking back, in May 2019, the last federal election, it wasn't expected that Scott Morrison would win it. And I think that's similarly how things are shaping up this time, but he still could. And just to see how all this goes over the coming few months, over summer holidays, and then back into 2022, hopefully it's a much better start to the year than we've had to finish, or certainly the second half of 2021. But it'll be really interesting to watch how this all comes together. You've seen business embrace Labor's policy on climate, and so it's an unusual spectre as we head into this next year and into the next federal election. It'll be really interesting to watch.
Michael, when you go on holidays, do you think federal politics like that? When I go on holidays, I watch the cricket. I drink a little bit too much. I eat far too much.
Look, I can honestly say whenever I go on holidays, I am not, well, number one, I'm not going for a run. Number two, I'm not spending that non-existent run, thinking about federal politics and what's going to happen. I'm definitely not thinking about Scott Morrison. So,
well, you'll be pleased to know I'm catching up on business podcasts too.
You mean other business podcasts?
Yeah.
What?
Dare you?
There's competition out there, We've got to keep beating them.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Jessica, you are an odd fellow. You know that?
I'm sure that was said in the nicest possible way. I'll take it as a compliment.
Absolutely.
There's one thing Adam said a couple of weeks ago that I think, remember, Adam, we were talking about what people can say on the radio and the fact that there's limits on what people can say on the radio, and then the fact that the internet is a free for all.
Yes.
And you're a fairly kind of straight-laced kind of fella. You're fairly...
Michael, this is where I disagree with you. I don't think Adam's straight-laced.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the whole point we were talking about earlier in the show about how you know Adam Lang, which is this podcast is actually called Adam Lang uncovered or Adam Lang revealed. But no, I don't think he's straight-laced at all. I think he gives the impression of being straight-laced, putting the jacket on to go to the bathroom, as you put it. But I actually totally disagree with that. Anyway.
Oh, well, because he used a term. He said that people, when they're online, they can just cut sick. And
there you go.
And Adam, I actually had to look it up to make sure that you were using it correctly, because
I bet he
a little
was.
bit 80s, isn't it?
This is the same person who refers to Facebook as the Facebook machine. So for you to use a term like cut sick, which was on Urban Dictionary, I'm like, my word, he's actually using this correctly.
Well, can I stretch it a little bit more, Michael?
Oh please.
Okay,
do.
so not last Friday, but the Friday before, I went to see a gig at the Enmore Theatre in Sydney, and it was Rat Cat's 30th anniversary of the release of their number one album, Blind Love.
Okay,
And
there
it was
are
awesome.
3 listeners who know Rat Cat at this point.
I know. Well, for all listeners who don't,
I'm not one of them.
look up That Ain't Bad and Don't Go Now, and I think you'll probably know those songs, but they were fantastic.
Were they?
Mm.
If you were to put Rat Cat up against, say, just picking an artist at random, say Barry Gibb and his brothers, where would they stack up, just in terms of both musical ability and also international performance?
I'm going to say they're incomparable, Michael.
I would say that if I was going to see him at the Enmore, I'd prefer Rat Cat.
That is a dagger to the heart, Sean.
I think we might have to leave it there, fellas. We need to let a dance get back to his holiday. I hope you enjoyed, Adam.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to Fear and Greed, the Sunday edition. As I said, Adam, have a great holiday. Michael, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Sean.
It's Sunday, the 12th of December, 2021. I'm Sean Aylmer. We hope you enjoyed the show and have a great Sunday.